Hello, I'm Pip Courtney. Welcome to A Taste of Landline. This week, the ultimate free-range eggs.
5 years ago, if you said I'd be a chook farmer, I wouldn't have taken you too seriously.
And I would have said, no way!
We'll cook some very healthy lamb and a bush master craftsman.
You go anywhere in the world and you'll never see anything like that.
Hello, I'm Prue Adams. There's a new term appearing on the shelves of grocery stores and at farmers markets. Pastured or paddock-raised eggs come from chickens that are kept in mobile chook houses that are regularly moved to greener pastures. Farming doesn't get much more idyllic than this. Pre-dawn at balmy Byron Bay. And the chooks are about to be let out of their purpose-built caravan to spend another day pecking on pasture.
There's nothing better than seeing 350 Isa Browns running around on fresh green pasture. They're beside themselves, they're that happy. To showcase to the consumer and all our customers that come on site, we were never going to do anything else other than raise our chickens on pasture.
"2,000 kilometres south, on the other side of a slice of water called Backstairs Passage, you come to Kangaroo Island. Here, Graham and Kathy Barrett are doing the daily egg collection from their homemade mobile chook house. They run chickens in rotation with beef cattle and prime lamb.
Chooks are actually very hard on pasture. They overgraze it very quickly, so that's why we keep moving the sheds around. The chooks like it short, so we graze it down with the cattle or the sheep, and then the chooks follow behind.
Back again on the mainland, at Keith near the SA-Vic border, another egg enterprise with a similar approach. Here, Bill Hood is doing his regular Monday morning move, pulling the chook caravan along another 25 metres to put the hens in lusher lucerne. Across the country, from Margaret River in the west to Atherton in the north, there are now hundreds of these small-scale, free-range egg farms that rely on mobile housing so chickens can always have fresh green feed. Those who farm this way say the eggs are more than just free range. Increasingly, they're referring to their product as pastured or pasture-raised eggs.
As we learnt more about pastured poultry and the benefit for land and all of those types of things, it was an absolute no-brainer.
The Byron Bay Farm is a showcase for small-scale animal and food production, which they say is ethical and sustainable. With thousands of visitors every year and a cafe on site, there is a ready market for their pastured free-range eggs. It's an expensive and labour-intensive way to farm. Some producers have to roll out temporary electric fencing before they move their chicken houses each week. The egg collection is not automated as it is in the large-scale commercial sheds, and fewer eggs are collected, partly because the chickens sometimes lay away from their boxes, but also because inconsistent weather and the threat of predators can lower the lay rate. Adding to the expense, in many cases Maremma guardian dogs are employed to protect the free-roaming hens.
Yeah, we'd have three main problems here. It was the wedge-tail eagles, the feral cats, and then the crows get a bit smart for us every now and then too.
And we wouldn't be doing it without the Maremma dogs. You have to have dogs and good fences to keep the chooks closer for the dogs to actually look after them.
They're an extraordinary animal. Obviously, we couldn't do what we do without them. With no fences or nothing, we've got foxes here and eagles, and the dogs do a very good job of dealing with that.
Eggs farmed this way are up to 4 times the price of caged chicken eggs, retailing at between $6 and $12 a dozen. But according to the producers Landline spoke with, there is still an insatiable demand.
We can't meet the demand at present. We cannot supply enough.
And has that always been the case?
Yes. We've never advertised anywhere. It's always just word of mouth that's spread our markets, and we just can't keep up.
We have a waiting list.
This is free-range egg production at 10,000 chickens per hectare, with fixed sheds. Any vegetation is eaten out pretty quickly, and while the birds are free to come and go as they like.
Oh, wow, look at them all.
Their pelletised feed and water is kept inside, and the chooks mostly opt to stay in the comfort of their climate-controlled home.
Certainly are a lot of them in here. I thought there were a lot outside, but there are a hell of a lot in here.
They go where they're comfortable, and if they want to go outside, they will. It's about midday now, so more birds will come inside around the middle of the day.
Dion Andari and his wife Anne started Day's Eggs in the late 80s. Back then, their laying hens were kept in cages, and Mr Andari maintains that is still best for the birds' welfare and productivity. There are several arguments mounted against free-range production. The chooks don't lay as many eggs over their lifetime. There is more land mass needed. Disease can be spread between wild birds and free-roaming chickens. And there is the issue of predators targeting the outdoor chooks. As an example, when a hawk flies overhead, the chickens scurry to the safety of their shed. For all these reasons, Day's Eggs was only pushed down the free-range path because consumers demanded it.
For some reason, the powers that be have decided that the supermarkets and the corporate giants were more deserving of the term free range than our little family farms.
Hood's Earth Eggs were hurled a nice little marketing edge last year when Choice magazine rated them the top producer as defined by their low hen density. With no real barrier fences, Bill and Sal's chookins, as they like to call them, are stocked at less than 10 to the hectare, 1,000 times sparser than the new information standard will allow. Not that they think all producers should farm the way that they do.
No, I wouldn't say so. I think there's room for all the different types of production of eggs, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I don't think it's affordable for everybody to eat backyard eggs. It's perhaps not every farmer's dream job to be a pastured free-range chook egg producer. And I don't know whether we would be able to produce enough eggs in this system to be able to feed the world.
Put it this way, 5 years ago, if you said I'd be a chook farmer, I wouldn't have taken you too seriously.
And I would have said, no way!
You could hardly see a leaf had been moved on the vines, but all the fruit had been taken off.
Hello, I'm Fiona Breen. The health benefits of omega-3 fatty acids have long been associated with fish, but now scientists in Tasmania have discovered a way to enrich lamb meat with the heart-protecting compounds.
This is not your typical Aussie barbecue. There are 36 different chops from 36 different sheep. Every single one is being carefully analysed for its taste, texture, flavour and appearance.
There is a scale of 1 to 9 where we ask our consumers to tell us whether they really enjoy it or they dislike it or they like it extremely well or they like it very much.
After 10 years of painstaking research, hundreds of tests in the lab and numerous feed trials on countless sheep, scientists from the University of Tasmania and the CSIRO have come up with a way of boosting heart-protecting omega-3 fatty acid levels in lamb.
The omega-3, particularly the long-chain omega-3s, are really good for our overall health. They boost our immune system, they're good for heart health. It's the main fatty acids, polyunsaturated fatty acids in the grey matter in the brain. They help against arthritis, and there's all sorts of other benefits.
According to researchers, compared to most Western nationalities, Australians consume notoriously low levels of omega-3s.
At the moment, lamb is quite an attractive meat. Australians do eat a lot of red meat, lamb in particular, so that's why we're targeting lamb. So we've now increased the amount in lamb, potentially twofold, so that's a great start. We're aiming to go maybe twofold again. So given that Australians do eat a fair amount of lamb, we see it's going to be a really good way to get more omega-3s into the Australian diet.
The winning formula is feed pellets infused with omega-3 rich oils. The sheep are given the supplementary feed of oil-infused pellets for 15 weeks before kill. Those omega-3s in the oil are absorbed into the muscle of the lamb, making the meat extra healthy.
What we have done is that we have established beyond any reasonable doubt that if we can strike 5% of the oil within the pellet, there are other things that come in, but within the pellet, if there's 5% of, say, the canola oil or the safflower oil, then we are getting the right quantity in there.
Lamb has always had low levels of heart-protecting omega-3 fatty acids. By feeding the sheep oil-infused pellets, scientists have been able to double it, but it's still a long way off the levels found in fish.
It's going to be a while before lamb competes with fish, but at the moment we are increasing the amount in lamb. We're now up to about a fifth of what we see in the average Australian fish. And we're also aiming to perhaps go higher again, but it's going to be a long time before lamb would compete directly with fish.
Fish has levels of about 200 milligrams per serve. These scientists have boosted the levels in lamb to 30 milligrams and hope to double it again in the future. Cressy farmer Claire Blackwood has her own sheep flock on a property next door to the research site. Today she's part of the taste testing team.
It's amazing the variation in the different samples. We're up to number 11 now. But it's good to have the biscuit in between. You can really taste the difference, I think.
Some of Claire Blackwood's white Suffolk Corriedale crosses have been used in the trials. Other breeds have also been included. The scientists have found that there's little difference in the omega-3 take-up by different sheep breeds.
People are looking for this type of thing. It's a bit different and they know what they're getting, they know where it's coming from and know exactly what's in the feed. It's an excellent idea. If we can try to make things more palatable, more healthy, it's only got to be a positive thing for the lamb industry.
Scientists and farmers alike believe the results of the scientific investigation could well be a game changer for the lamb industry.
After 10 years of conducting this research, now we can say with certainty that we have achieved tremendous amount of success by striking the right balance between consumer acceptability and the level of the omega-3s that we consider being really acceptable.
This research is now switching its focus. It's trialling the oil-infused pellets on milk sheep at one of Tasmania's sheep dairies and cheeseries.
Here you go.
The milk from these special East Frisian Cross Awazi sheep goes straight to the cheesery next door, where it's made into numerous popular cheese products. Initial data trends suggest the omega-3 fatty acids are being absorbed into the milk as well. For Diane Ray and her family, who run the Grandview Dairy and Cheesery, it's great news.
We thought if we could get omega-3 in, which is, as we all know, great for a whole lot of health reasons, then we can actually even increase the functionality even further and then make product out of that can then run with the labels of, omega-3 additives or functional food.
The next step for these scientists is to get the winning formulas out into the marketplace. Lamb is the biggest seller at Jason Nichols' Hobart Butchery. In fact, lamb roast is a customer favourite. He's confident omega-3 enriched lamb would be a winner.
Yeah, I think people would be more interested in lamb if it's going to have more omega-3, better for them. I think people aren't really concerned about the price if it's going to be healthier for them.
In the end, it comes down to the customer. Will they choose to buy a healthier cut of lamb with higher levels of omega-3s? And will they be prepared to pay more for it?
A bit of pressure on him. Face up. G'day, mate. How you going? Oh, I love that time. Oh, that's just the most powerful moment ever. How you going? Look at me. Come on. Good man. Yeah, come back. Come back to me. Good man.
Hello, I'm Tim Lee. Plaiting is a traditional craft used to make items such as hat bands and belts and stock whips. Doug Kite has elevated it to a rare art. His work is remarkable, and so too is his life story. For more than 30 years, Doug Kite has practised a rare craft. His plaited goods are highly sought by collectors around the world, though he's not a man to skite.
Most of the others are much better than me with their whip making and all that, I reckon anyhow.
Doug Kite is 92, and though he's slowing down, he's still plaiting.
He's a classic, modest, incredibly talented man, but he also appreciates the value of this type of artwork and it's a rare trade. It's something that really is not well understood by those who don't do it. So a lot of times when he's been showing his work to other people, they've probably disregarded the extraordinary detail and effort and skill involved in it.
But Doug Kite's art and the story behind it hasn't escaped the attention of the Museum of Victoria. For the past year, Lisa Dale Hallett has been documenting his craft and his life story.
He's spent years perfecting, constantly perfecting, never arriving at perfection because he, of course, is a perfectionist, and really pushing leather braiding into areas that most people wouldn't think of. Earrings that are made in the shape of a gum nut and a braided footstool, all sorts of unusual, interesting things.
The leatherwork is crafted from kangaroo hide, and Doug Kite has invented and made many of the tools he uses to slice and trim the lace into delicately fine threads, which he then plats.
And this is really rare. Have you come across anyone else who does braiding around
probably
corners?
Not as silly as me.
Leather hatbands are a traditional Australian custom. These are a couple of fairly typical examples. And these are a couple of Doug kites. It looks like barbed wire, but it's actually made of leather. And this has become his signature. It's a miniature stock whip, so true to scale you can actually crack it. Not that you ever would.
We're familiar with belts and hatbands, but perhaps not so to the degree that Doug's created with that sort of fine, really fine, elegant work. The miniature whip for the hatband is unlike anything else that you'd see anywhere in Australia, and it's been collected and made for people in Australia, and it's also found its way across to America. So there's some really exceptional craft work here.
Cattle producer Peter Cox is a big admirer.
Doesn't matter where I go in Australia, people comment, where did you get that hatband? It's unique. It's tremendous. Yeah, you go anywhere in the world and you'll never see anything like that.
Several decades ago, the stock whip hatband was the reason Shane Patterson and his family came to get to know Doug Kite.
Dad met him at the races one day at Sandown. He was standing near the parade ring, he had a hat on, and he had a little stock whip that he plaited as a hatband. John, Paddy.
The Melbourne saddler is another big fan.
And he's made a lot of little stock whips, and we've sold a lot for him, but he's made stock whips for me, driving whips, ties, it's everything. I think there's a cup and a saucer. Anything he puts his mind to, he can plait.
On most Saturdays, you'll find Shane Patterson and his brother Peter at the races as clerks of the course, mounted on grey horses. It's a family tradition. Their father John recently retired after riding the rails for nearly 40 years. This is one of Shane's impressive custom-made saddles.
I put a crocodile seat in it. It doesn't make him ride any better, but something different. Yeah, fair bit of work went into it, time consuming.
Rather like Doug Kite's plaiting.
It's not just an art form and it's not just functional, it's actually a mathematical process that Doug's been undertaking.
It always starts rough.
He's had to decipher pattern, form, function, shape.
Over that one, under that one, see? See how it's starting to come over the three?
Yep. And there's no manual here, there's no book that tells him how to do this. What's the name of this pattern that you're doing?
This is just under 3 over 3.
One of the things that's so remarkable is the fact he's been able to actually work it out for himself.
Get the idea of it. Leave it at that, I think.
Not bad for someone who had next to no formal education.
Doug describes that he's only ever spent 2 lots of 6 months at school before he was 12.
You could leave school with 12 those days. And I was about 11 and something. So they said, oh, you can go,
Doug Kite did station work, became a drover and helped move great mobs of cattle down the Birdsville track. Many of the mobs belonged to Australia's cattle king, Sydney Kidman.
There's a beautiful layering of story that goes back to Doug's early days growing up in Farina and the Mari district and really being part of that land beyond the fence line, that sense of being part of this larger story that relates to the pastoral history of Australia.
He saw the last of the Afghan camel trains. By the early 1930s, they'd mostly gone, replaced by motorised transport. Over the years, he has taught his craft to many, and now he has donated his collection to Museum Victoria.
Once we've collected a collection of this kind, there's quite a lot of work involved in documenting it.
That's 550 millimetres long.
Each item is registered, described, measured, photographed.
Just try that.
Yep. It needs to be assessed by conservation staff. In fact, we need to put it in a cool store, which is minus 20 degrees for 2 or 3 weeks. And all of this is about preservation, accessible through our Collections Online website.
It's hoped in future it will go on show in Melbourne and elsewhere around the country.
You know, in years to come, people will look at them and say, Joe, who made these and how detailed they are.
Yeah, I reckon it's great to put it on show and for him to be recognised. That's the thing. I mean, he's pretty quiet and he don't like a lot of hype and all that, but I think it's good to be out there and seeing now what he has done.
I think that's the case. I think he's really proud of the work that he's done, as he should be, because it is exceptional. I think also he hasn't stopped making, so I don't doubt that there'll be some more things coming our way.
So what does the man himself make of all the fuss?
Well, I suppose it's better than leaving them in the shed here with someone to throw out, isn't it? That's what I think anyway.
They like pink because they're very romantic.
It's awakened the locals as to what a treasure we've got here.
Well, that's the program. We hope you enjoyed it. Coming up next week, a special treat when you meet an amazing family of high country cattle women.
Here we are, 4, 5, 6 generations later.
I remember sitting on the front of my grandfather's saddle. I learnt how to count cattle with him. It's a tradition that I'm teaching my kids as well.
So often we think of mountain cattlemen as bearded old men, hermits in the bush, and it's not the case, They're fabulous women with great ideas that are leading the way.
And 2 native foods, finger limes and the iconic Murray cod.
From deep frying, from charcoal, we've found that the fish, it takes well to nearly every single style of cooking.
And don't forget, we're on iView, Facebook and Twitter. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.